Tier is of civic citizenship. The search and rescue officers talk about, but usually only after they have. Fifth was, it is called the Oz factor. It is the moment when the natural ambient noise of the wilderness wide in the trees, the chirping of crickets, the rustling of small animals suddenly vanishes. It does not fade out, it is sever. The silence that replaces it is not peaceful. It is heavy. It feels slow. The air pressure has dropped in your eardrums feel tight. And the hair on the back of your neck spins up because your Brahma Barons think there is primal stunting rears biases, except you are no longer the observer. ZUA become the prey. I am the mysterious Nama. Here we document the glitches, the vanishings, and the things that simply should not exist in our reality. If you want to keep these logs open, and if you are brave enough to listen to what comes next, leave a like and subscribe to Rim Remedy Lodge. Let me know in the comments if you have ever found something in the woods that did not belong there. Stay safe. Part on the silence in the green. This happened in late October of 2014. I need to be clear about something before it starts. We were not amateurs. I grew up hiking the Cascade. My best friend, Marcus, was an Eagle Scout and had spent 2 summers working as a wildland firefighter in Montana. His younger brother, Sam, was the least experienced of the three of us, but he was 20 years old, athletic, and fit. We were prepared. We had topographical flies, a stellate phone beer spray, and outbreaks for 5 days, even till we only poker pal to be out for free. We were heading into a remote section of the Olympic Peninsula in Washington state. Marcus had found an old forestry map from the 1970s in his caverns in it. It showed a red line in a dense area marked as Sector 4. According to the old map, there was a fire lookout to up the air of the Tarbor of their decades acres. We wanted to see if it was still standing. We wanted to be the first people to set foot in it in 40 years. The trouble started at the trailhead. We parked Marcus' truck acre at amount of Highway 101. It was a gray, drizzly Tuesday morning. The air smelled of wet cutter and decaying leaves. As we were gearing up, checking our pack straps and lacing our boots, a park ranger pulled up in a wide pickup truck. He didn't gow. He just rolled down the window and watched this. He was an either man, skin liver, ace hidden behind dark sunglasses by the Yorkcast sky. Marcus walked over to let him know our itinerary, which is standard safety protocol. I stayed by the trunk, but I could hear the conversation. When Marcus pointed to Sector 4 on the map, the ranger did not tell us it was illegal. He did not tell us it was close. He just chewed on the inside of his cheek and stared at the map for a long, uncomfortable time. He finally said, "Radio reception is spotty out there." And I looked at Marcus and said, "Keep your eyes on the crown, son. Just keep your eyes on the crown." We loud about it as we hiked in. We thought he might watch out for snakes. We had no idea he was being literal. The first day was grueling but normal. The Olympic rainforest is beautiful, but it is also suffocating. The moss covers everything. It hangs from the branches like green curtains, dampening sound and limiting visibility to maybe 20 or 30 RTR. We made good time camping that night a small, nameless creek. We ate freeze-dried chili, drank whiskey from a flask, and joked about the ranger's ominous myth. Sam was in high spirits, talking about how cold the photos of the Avenant Tower were going to look on his social media. On the morning of day 2, things changed. We broke camp at 6 amid too wet and early start. We needed to push up the established game trails and bushwhack our way toward the coordinates of Sector 4. By noon, the terrain had turned hostile. We were fighting trail tickets of Devil's Club and sold that tore at our pants. The ground was foamy, sinking 2 or 3 inches with every step, sucking at our boots. But the physical difficulty wasn't what bothered me. It was the atmosphere. Around 1:30 p.m. the forest stopped. I don't mean the trees stopped. I mean the life of the forest stopped. We had been hearing the chatter of jays and the distant hum of insects all morning. But as we crossed in a shallow ravine, it was like stepping across a soundproof threshold. The birds scut out. The one died completely. The stillness was absolute. It was so quiet I could hear the friction of my own jacket rustling against my back straps. I could hear the blood pumping in my ears. Marcus, who was leading, stopped and held up a hand. "Diane, you guys here?" "Huh?" he whispered. Hear what? Sam asked, his voice entirely too loud in the vacuum. Exactly, Marcus said. Nothing. Wade checked the DPS. The screen was flickering. The arrow that rivals in an R position was spinning in a lazy, clockwise circle, unable to lock onto aid. I pulled out my mannequin pass. The needle was doing the same thing. It wasn't pointing north. It was drifting aimlessly, as if the magnetic pole had simply vanished. We should have returned back. I know that now. Every instant in my body was screaming that we had walked into a predator's terrorist. But the human brain is origin. We rationalized it. We blamed the dense canopy for the GBS signal iron deposits in the crown for the compass. We decided to push on for Narhar. 20 minutes later, we found the clearing. The dense wall of pine and fir trees ended abruptly, forming a purple of a mystical often says. Maybe 50 feet and dimmer. The ground in the clearing was different. It wasn't the chowdic, rectangle floor of the forest. It was flat, muddy, dark earth, completely devoid of grass, weeds, or saplings. It looked like a zone, and directly in the center of the clearing, rising out of the mud, was a staircase. It was not a ruin. It wasn't a crumbling stone foundation or a rotting wooden ladder. It was a pristine, white, spiral staircase. It looked like it belonged in a Victorian mansion or a Hyman library. It was made of cast iron, painted a glossy, flawless white. It had an ornate railing that spiraled up 10 or 12 feet into the air. But it went nowhere. There was no house attached to it, no walls, no debris. It just grew out of the mud. The bottom step was buried slightly in the earth, suggesting it had been there for a long time. Yet there was not a speck of rust on it. There was no moss growing on the metal. It was spotlessly clean, gleaming dull white under the gray sky. We stood at the edge of the tree line, free-grown and frozen in confusion. My brain tried to make sense of it. I had thought maybe it was an art installation, or maybe a piece of glass dropped from the cargo plane. The view was physically impossible to imagine how it was planet immersed. Marcus took a step forward. Stay here, he told us. He walked slowly toward it, his boots squelching loudly in the wet mud. He circled abject. He reached out a gloved hand and touched the railing. He pulled his hand back quickly, as if it had shocked him. It's cold, he said. His voice sounded flat, swallowed by the unnatural silence of the clearing. It feels like ice. Sam, being Sam, didn't wait for permission. He dropped his pack and jogged out to meet Marcus. This is insane, Sam said, pulling out his phone. I have 0 bars, but I have to get a bite of this. This is real gold, Mark. I stay back near the trees. I didn't want to go near it. A wave of nausea hit me the moment I looked at this structure. It felt swung. It felt like looking at a glitch in a video game, something that violates the rules of geometry in nature. Sam, dawned, I called out. Let's take a picture from here and go. We need to find Cam before darks. Sam ignored me. He walked up to the first step. He looked up at the top of the stairs, which simply ended in minor of the 15 feet of the ground. I'm going up, Sam said. I bet I can see the ridge from the top. Banjo it, Marcus said, grabbing Sam's shoulder. Seriously, Sam, don't. It's not stable. Sam shrugged up him up, allowing. It's solid iron. Marcus, look at it. It's built like a tank. Relax. I'm just going to climb to the top, take a selfie, and come down. I watch it as Sam placed his rifle on the first white step. A dull, metallic drum echoed through the clearing, like a tuning fork being struck underwater. I felt the vibration in my teeth. Sam froze for a second, looking down at his fort. Then he looked back at us and grinned. See, solid. He began to climb. 1 step, 2 steps. He spiraled upward, his figure moving higher above the muddy clearing. When he reached the halfway point, to Pi's feet up, the silence in the woods broke. But it wasn't a noise I expected. It was a low, stick buzzing sound, like a swarm of bees, but mechanical. It seemed to be coming from everywhere, onto the sky, from the trees, from the crown beneath the ether. Sam, Marcus yelled, looking up. Sam, get down. Sam didn't answer. He was at the top step now. He was standing on the small, square landing at the pinnacle of the spiral, 15 feet in the air. surrounded by nothing but the gray sky and the towering trees. He stopped moving. He didn't take his phone out. He didn't look at the view. He just stood there, rigid, his back to us. Sam, he screamed, slowly. Trifling slowly, Sam turned around the small platform. He looked down at us. His face was pale, drained of all color. His eyes were wide, pupils dilated so much that his eyes looked entirely black. He didn't look scared. He looked confused. He looked like he was trying to understand. Almost in a language he had never heard before. Pan, he opened his mouth, head and speak to us. He didn't scream for help. He looks directly at Marcus and boys, the Southern our police, the fountain. Kimster was distant, like it was powerful one. Waiter! And then Sam stepped off. He didn't jump. He didn't fall. He stepped forward off the platform as if he had expected there to be solid ground waiting for him. I flinched, expecting to see him plummet 15 feet and shatter his legs on the mud, but he didn't hit the ground. As his foot left the metal platform, the air on him rippled like heat hate on a highway. His body disturbed, stretching vertically like taffy, and then, with a sound like a wet shit snapping in the wind, Pyband, he was just gone. He didn't dissolve. He was deleted. 1 second he was falling. The next second pair was nothing but empty air and the white staircase stains in Ellen to clearing part 2. The actors underneath, for a full 5 seconds, neither of us moved. The clearing was the silent again. Save for the ringing in my ears, the spot where Sam had vanished was empty air. There was no hole in the sky, no shimmer, no residual energy, just the gray clouds and the damn air. Hen! Marcus screamed. It was a sound I never went to hear again. It was the sound of a man whose reality had just snapped in half. He sprinted forward, his boots drying up globs of wet earth. He didn't run to the staircase. He ran to the spot on the crowd directly beneath, where Sam had stepped. He threw himself into the mud. He was waving his arms frantically through the air, grabbing at nothing, trying to catch a falling body that once there. Sam, he read. Sam, where are you? I stood paralyzed near the tree line. My brain was trying to reboot. I was waiting for the punchline. I was waiting for Sam to drop from the trees, blowing a hiding camera, but the silence of the woods was heavy, oppressive. It felt like the forest was holding its breath, watching us. Marcus scrambled up and ran to the spiral stairs. He grabbed the argent railing and shook it violently. Bring him back. Hey, yelled at the metal. You bring him back right now? And then the light changed. It happened in an instant. One moment it was a gray overcast afternoon, probably around 2:30 p.m. The next moment the light simply turned off. It didn't fade into twilight. It was as if someone had thrown a heavy wool blanket over the sun. The forest plunged into a deep, bright purple gloom. The temperature dropped 20 degrees in a heartbeat. You could see my rift floating in front of my face in thick, white clouds. Marcus, we have to go, I said. My voice was shaking so hard it could barely form the words. We have to leave this place now. Marcus ignored me. I was circling the staircase, looking up at the empty platform. Hast here, Marcus whispered. I can hear him. I walked closer, fighting the urge to vomit. The air out the stairs smelled like ozone and sulfur, like a lightning strike. You're ho? I asked. Sam, Marcus said. Listen. I strained my ears against the silence. At first, I heard nothing. Then, I heard it. It was faint, muffled, and wet. It sounded like someone trying to scream with a mouthful of dirt. It wasn't coming from the top of the stairs. It wasn't coming from the woods. It was coming from under our feet. It was Sam's voice, unmistakable but distorted, filtering up through the solid mud of the clearing. It's dark. The voice sobbed. It's so cold. Marcus, it's so cold. Marcus dropped to his knees again. He pressed his ear against the wet earth. I am here. Marcus screamed into the dirt. I am here. Sam kept talking. The voice beneath the ground grew louder, more frantic. It sounded like he was inches below the surface, trapped in a box. Let me out. Sam screamed. The waiter is rising. Marcus, the waiter is rising. Marcus looked at me, his eyes wild, tears streaming down his face mixed with mud. Give me your shovel. He, Kells, has buried. Has right here. Marcus pulled his uninteresting tool from his belt and began to axe the ground. He struck the earth with manic strength, tearing up chunks of sod and mud. I stood there, frozen. Logic told me this was impossible. Sam had stepped up into the air. He hadn't fallen into a hole, but the screaming was so real. It was vibrating through the soles of my boots. I grabbed my shovel and ran over. We duck until our hands were blistered and our muscles burned. We dug a hole 3 feet deep, then 4. But there was nothing. Just rocks, and cold black worms. But the voice kept moving. Every time we'd up it all stooped dip. I know the ridge where the sound was coming from. The screaming would shift. It would move 5 feet to the left, 10 feet to the right. It was mocking us. At 4 feet down, Marcus' shovel hit something hard. A rock. He threw the shovel aside and started digging with his bare hands. He tore his fingernails on the stones. He didn't care, Sam. He sobbed. I'm coming. And the staircase vanished. I was looking right at it. I had glanced up for a split second to wipe the sweat from my eyes. When I looked back, the clearing was empty. The white iron spiral was gone. Here was no hole where the base had been. No disturber. It was dice gone as if it had never existed. And with it, the screaming stops. The silence rushed back in, louder than before. Marcus waist bibbing the hole we had dug, panting, his bleeding. He looks up at me. Where is he? Marcus whispering. I don't know, he said. Marcus stared at the dirt wall of the hole. Then his expression went slack. He looked peaceful, almost sleepy. Ask deeper, Marcus says softly. I just do go deeper. Marcus picked up a sharp rock. He didn't stand up to Dick. He started clawing at the bottom of the hole, scraping away layers of clay, mumbling to himself. Marcus, stop, I said. We need to go. Night. We have no light. He didn't look up. He just kept scratching at the air. You go, he said. I have to get him. Has thirsty. Pat was one. He heard the footsteps. They were heavy, rhythmic tarts coming from the tree line. Crunch, crunch, crunch. Something was walking toward the clearing. Something big. I clicked on my flashlight and swept the beam across the trees. The beam cut through the dark, illuminating the thick chunks of the firs. There was nothing there, but the footsteps kept king. Crunch, crunch. Marcus, get up, I yelled. Marcus didn't move. He was humming a lullaby now, curled ill pull at the ball at the bottom of the muddy pit. I made the hardest choice of my life. I knew with absolute certainty that if I stayed in the clearing for one more minute, I would never leave. The rational part of my brain had shut out. I was operating on pure reptilian fear. He turned and ran. I ran blindly into the dark forest. I didn't check my compass. I didn't look for the trail. I just ran away from the clearing, away from the hole, and away from the heavy, invisible footsteps that were now stomping through the mud right behind me. Part 3. The day I don't remember much of the run. I remember tearing my clothes on thorns. I remember falling into a creek and losing my flashlight. I remember running until my lungs burned like acid and my legs gave out. I huddled under the roots of a massive fallen cedar tree, shivering violently. I waited for the sunrise, but the night seemed to last for days. I sat there in the dark, listening to the wood. Sometimes I thought I heard Marcus calling my name. Sometimes I thought I heard the machinal buzzing of the staircase. I didn't answer. I just held my knees to my chest and prayed. When the gray light of dawn finally filtered through the canopy, I started walking in. I found a logging road by sheer luck around noon. A truck driver found me 2 hours later, walking down the center of the gravel rate, dehydrated and babbling. Here is the part that does not make sense. We entered the woods on a Tuesday morning. The truck driver picked me up on Friday evening. I had been gone for 4 days. I told the police everything. I told about the sounds, the staircase, the clearing, and the voice in the crowd. I told them exactly where we had been. They launched a massive search and rescue operation. Helicopters, Dodge, volunteers, Tecumseh 444 weeks. They found nothing. They didn't find the clearing. They didn't find the hole we dug. They didn't find the staircase. And they never found Marcus or Sam. The official report read it as a tragic accident. He teared that we got lost, succumbed to hypothermia, and that I had hallucinated the supernatural elements to stress and absurd. They think Marcus and Sam fell into a brave and were taken by a Kagers, and their bodies were simply never found. I almost believed them. I wanted to believe them. It was easier to believe that I was crazy than to accept what he saw. But then 3 months later, I found the phone. I had lost my phone in the chows, or so I thought. I found it in the zipper lying on my bike, packed it. I charged it up, hoping to find photos of the tribe swimming to prove that we were happy, that we were normal. I went to the voice memos app. I sometimes record ideas for my writing when I hike. There was one recording from that day. It was dated Tuesday, 2:34 p.m. The exact time we were in the clearing. I pressed play, my hands shaking. I expected to hear the whine, or maybe Marcus yelling, or Sam loving about this staircase. Instead, I heard breathing, heavy, panicked breathing. Then I heard my own voice. Look, 8, I said on the recording. It's beautiful. Terry was appeased. Silence. 10, my voice 8, but different, lower, mimicking a deep tone. Yeah, but it's creepy, right? 10, my voice again, pitching up high, sounding manic. I'm gonna climb it. Watch me. I listened to the recording for 10 minutes. Here were no other boys. Here was no Marcus. Here was no Sam. It was to be. I was standing in the middle of a silent forest, having a version with two people who were not there. I was arguing with myself. I was laughing at my own jokes. I was screaming at myself to stop climbing. The recording ended with the sound of me whispering one word over and over at her. Lonely. I don't know what happened in Sector 4. I don't know if the staircase took my friends and erased them from existence, leaving only my memories, or if I went into those woods alone, a broken man looking for a way out and invent a horror story to cover up a reality I can face. But I know one thing, I still have the map, and sometimes, late at night, when the street lights beside my window, I can hear it. I can hear Sam screaming from under the floorboards of my apartment. Still thirsty. If you want to keep these locks open, leave a like and subscribe to Grimmer Mellet Locks. Let me know in the comments which story kept you uptight. Stay safe.